We good?
Can you put up the?
All right. Hello, everybody. Today is May 5th, 2020. It's 6:30 p.m. We are here for the City of Laconia Planning Board. First thing I need to do is read to you introduction for electronic meeting. As chair of the Laconia Board, due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis, in accordance with the Governor's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is also authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the Governor's Emergency Order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we are, A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing the Zoom platform for this meeting, where all members of the board will have the ability to communicate, and the public will have the access to watch live YouTube video at https://www.youtube.com/LaconiaNH. Listen to this meeting through dialing the following number: 1-312-626-6799 or 1-646-558-8656, or participate with the Zoom app at webinar ID 993-5764-5425. The password is 695107. Or B, providing public notice of the necessary information by accessing the meeting.
How do I get rid of this?
We previously gave notice to the public on how to access the meeting using Zoom, and instructions are provided on the City of Laconia website at www.laconianh.gov/agenda center/view file/05/05/2020-1232 packet equals true. Or C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-524-3877 at extension 249, or email us at planning@laconianh.gov. Or D, adjourning the meeting in the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at that time. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, also please state whether or not there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. So welcome, everybody, and I'm going to start by calling this meeting to order and asking Kalina to perform a roll call.
Mike Dellavecchio,
Here.
David Bounds,
Here.
Charlie Sinclair,
Here.
and Edwin Bones.
I'm here.
And then remotely is Rich McNeil.
Present and accounted for, and I'm all alone.
Stacy Susie,
Here and alone.
Joel Fox,
Here and I'm alone.
Brett Beliveau,
Here and I'm alone.
and Kirk Biotti.
Here and I'm alone.
All right. I'd like to take this opportunity to ask Stacy if she'd be willing to perform as a full member tonight?
That's fine.
Is that a yes? Let me hold on a minute. I can't hear a word coming out of this right now. Now I'm getting no sound.
Out of that?
Put your earphones on, Eddie.
Wise guy.
We heard that.
Did someone say something?
Something.
Unless Brett, you would like to.
Yes.
Let's just swap out the headphones.
Could you hear before?
Yeah, I was perfect until I started speaking.
You can hear that.
Got it now.
All right, perfect. All right. So Stacy is going to act as a member tonight. Hang on. Okay. We have a recording secretary, Kalina Graham. Staff in attendance also is planning director Dean Fethen and assistant planner Rob Mora. I'd like to start with the acceptance of minutes for the previous meeting of April 7th. The minutes were sent out on April 9th and with a few revisions that were made. So can I get a motion to accept? So moved. Charlie St. Clair has made the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Point of
Mike?
order,
Yes.
we don't need a vote on accepting the minutes. All we just need to do is accept them.
All right. So accept, so moved. Thank you. Presentations? None. Extensions? None. So we're gonna move on to public hearing. PL 2020-003 SP, 1330 Union Avenue. Proposal to construct 32 condominium units, garages, and open parking. This was continued from April 17th, and we need to have a public hearing and decision tonight. So we start by opening it up to the applicant.
Good evening, John Roki, Roki Consulting, here on Zoom on behalf of the applicant. Since the last time we've had a meeting, quite a few different things have happened. We actually did finalize the process and get our demo permit on the original Barton's Motel. We have finalized everything with the state of New Hampshire and have an AOT permit in hand, an alteration of terrain permit in hand, which we submitted. We got it on like the 16th. We have kind of gone through and finalized everything with the Department of Public Works on the sidewalk issue. We're doing a detached walk across the front, and then we're going to relocate the crosswalk. Here, if I share my screen, I can show you some of this stuff. The sidewalk I'm talking about is the sidewalk we agreed on is going to go in between the two entrances. It's going to go up almost to the property line of John's Corvette. And then this is going to be the new crosswalk location, and the old location up here further by the existing entrance will be abandoned and destroyed, basically. Like you won't be able to see it anymore. If you look at in some of your packages and online, one of the big questions or big discussion items that we had at the last meeting was the architecture. And one of the things that we have done is we went through and revised fixed up the buildings a little bit. That was one of the reasons why we asked for a continuance at the last meeting. Some of this stuff wasn't done. The garages, there was a lot of discussion about the garages looking like basically self-storage units. So we've added basically almost like, it looks like a false second story on the garages to kind of make it look, match in with the buildings a little bit better. If you look at another side view of, we kind of cleaned up the renderings and made them a little bit better. That's a side view of it, stone along the bottom.
I'm not looking at that.
Yeah, we're not seeing it, John.
Oh, you aren't? Okay, hold on. Okay. I gotta fix my share. Okay, sorry. Did that switch?
That's giving us this view from the lake.
Okay, yep, you're on the right PDF. Okay, so what I was saying is, here's the garages, what the garages look like now. We added like a second story, to make it look like a second story with some little windows above the garages, so they don't look like self-storage units anymore. And it kind of changed the style of everything to match in with the buildings in the back.
That's still pretty much like a storage building. Sorry.
I don't recall seeing too many regular storage units with second story with like windows and facade and stuff like that. So, but we did what we can to update it and make it look better and match in with the buildings a little bit better.
I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying, is that all you got?
Yep. So then this is another look at the front view. We cleaned up and did what we're doing for the siding and the roofs and the roof lines and stuff like that. Stone along the bottom edge. There's a side view. Let me zoom back out a little bit here. Lake view. And then kind of a zoom back version like you were flying above McDonald's or something. So you see a little bit about how it all lays out and stuff like that. But let's see, let me share a different thing here. Stop that share. Bring up my site plan. This is the like I said, this is the current plan set. What we have is for drainage. We kind of finalized the configuration of everything. There's going to be a jellyfish in this location that connects into the city system, and a jellyfish here that goes into the lake. And we worked with the state of New Hampshire. We got approvals on all of that system. We did we went through the city of Laconia third-party review with Du Bois and King, and they reviewed everything and have signed off on everything. So we've gone through basically everything you're looking at has been reviewed and approved by both the city and the state of New Hampshire.
So everybody's in agreement that the drainage issues that you devised for this is not going to impact the lake in any way.
That's correct. And that was third-party review with the water department and the state of New Hampshire and planning. We had a pre-application meeting. We discussed all the parameters that they wanted the third-party reviewer to look at. The third-party reviewer actually is familiar with the products that we're using. They've been showing all the information on it before independently of this project. So they knew about the product already and agree that it functions the way that we say it does.
Okay. And what kind of ongoing review will there be as this project goes it through the construction phase, that we're sure that we're not impacting the lake
Yep.
in any way.
Nope, during construction, there's gonna be like full construction monitoring of the project, both on our end and the city of Laconia will have the conservation tech out inspecting erosion control measures and making sure that everything is that nothing is being, there's no erosion issues going on. We're gonna make sure everything is being installed correctly and there's a long-term maintenance plan, like basically the contact jellyfish will be maintained by Belmore catch basin cleaning company. They are currently doing the maintenance on several of these around Lake Winnipesaukee already. And they're just going to be under contract and all the records of the cleaning will be available at any time. So.
And are we hiring an independent contractor or somebody to oversee the construction phase?
No,
Okay. So
not
that's
that I know of. That hasn't been suggested, but.
Okay. Is that something the planning board had considered and decided was unnecessary? Yes, I'm asking the planning board director that.
It has not been brought up before this time.
Okay. Well, I'm not raising this in an objection form saying it has to be or it doesn't have to be, but on a lot of projects, we require the developer to hire an independent contractor to report back to us on a daily basis or a weekly basis as to how the construction's going, what problems are going on, and those kinds of issues. And because this is so close to the lake, I'm concerned about that.
Mhm.
Quick question, David, I guess it's for you. What was the last project the city hired someone to oversee?
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head. I know we've done it multiple times.
Okay. Just curious.
I'll get you that answer though at some point.
Please, I'm just curious. So we're gonna open this up?
I can answer that if you like.
What was that?
I can answer that if you'd like.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So the last project that you required independent monitoring, construction monitoring, would be for the Langley Cove development on Weirs Boulevard.
All right.
I understand that Councilor Bound's concern, but I don't think that this construction project rises up to that level. And I hear you about its location right on the lake, and I get that. But there's nothing unusual here. There's no retaining walls, compaction, steep slopes, or anything like that that is unusual. This is a pretty level, straightforward type construction.
I agree. And I'm not suggesting we need an independent contractor. I'm just making inquiry because I feel that with a project of this size, which is certainly a lot different than Langley Cove, that we ought to be able in a position for our own staff, Conservation Commission, to monitor those issues and ensure that we're not creating runoff to the lake.
We certainly would do that, and our conservation technician generally goes out to construction sites once a week, make sure that all of the erosion control measures are in place, functioning properly. Sometimes they get knocked over or whatever, and they need to be fixed and replaced. So she goes out and checks all that. I know that DPW will be actively involved with this project, with the tie-ins, with stormwater and the curb cuts and all those kinds of things.
Well, I don't want to set a time frame or a time or even a frequency in which these inspections need to be done, but I just want to make sure that we're not running into any issues as we go through the construction phase.
Yep. This is, if you remember, this is very similar to the project that we did, that the same developer had done at Lake Houses at Christmas Island. And that one was right on the water as well. And it was a similar situation where to the water, it's pretty level. And I don't believe there were any issues at all during that construction that I was aware of with impacts to the lake or anything like that.
Thank you.
John, are you all set? If not, I'm going to open up to, if you are, I'm going to open up to public.
Yeah, I mean, any other questions you guys have? I mean, I kind of ran through all the,
Okay.
the approvals that we have, and I mean, we're pretty well in a good position with all of our other stuff. So,
I have a question.
We listened to the input from the abutters and the planning board the last time. We tried to, improve upon the architecture and things like that, which I hope most of you agree. And that's about it.
All right.
Can I,
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead, Joel.
thank you. I see the spot for the slips, which is right next to the beach. Is there an intention to have a beach and swimming area? It seems like the slips are going to go right into where you could have a small beach area.
That's an example of that's where the existing dock is right now, right next to the beach.
Mhm.
So if I can go to the, here, hold on a second. If I share the other screen, stop share. And go to the existing conditions plan. Yeah. Here's the existing conditions plan. The dock is right on the beach as it exists right now. So all I did with my plan is I just showed a dock in that same location. But the configuration of the slips will be finalized by our specialist. So
Is the number of slips known already?
I thought it was like 8 or something like that. Whatever is based on the number, but on the frontage of the shorefront that you have available. It's definitely not 32. We have 32
No.
condominium units, and it's definitely not that. We anticipate maybe a couple spots being designated, and the rest of them being reserved for like day docking for people who have boats at the marinas.
Okay,
When are you
and
gonna
then
make
you're,
that
sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And would there be a roped off swimming area, or? I'm wondering what the
I'm not-
common area
I don't
might
know
be.
exactly what they would do with that. The lake houses at Christmas Island also had a beach, and I don't know exactly what they did with that, whether they rope it off during the summer to designate the area. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, and then I guess it sounds like you don't know if there's any plans for amenities for a common area, picnic tables, place for kids to play. Is there any, it seems like it's rather tight for anything like that.
They'll have the beach itself. They'll have the lawn, like there's a 50-foot setback to the shoreline. So there's going to be a lot of open lawn area out in front of between the condominiums and the, here, let me reshare this.
Well, and that would be about 20 feet before you get to the beach, 20 or 25 feet. And
It's probably about 35 to the closest, and then on both sides, it's quite a bit more. Like over in this area, there's quite a bit more area, and there's some trees over here that'll be preserved. And then over in this area, it's they got a pocket over there. So there's some room out there. And then you'll also have some area out in the front in this area that could set up some tables or something. And this area is going to be more, once the project is up, there's going to be some more landscaping filled in here to improve upon the front as well. So.
Okay.
But there's a lot of green space on the parcel with what we're doing. So.
All right. You all set, Jill?
yes, thank you.
Charlie had a question.
I do. Hi, John. I'm just trying to figure out how to approach this. John, I'm looking at your renderings here, and I'm looking at the building that's there now with a bookstore.
Yep.
I know what the bookstore is used for. What's the building next to it used for? Are those rooms or, you know?
There's the bookstore, and then there's the Barton's personal residence. There's a personal residence attached right to the bookstore, and then it goes into the rental units.
Okay, so I've had several people contact me about, apparently they didn't contact the Heritage Commission, but they're really unhappy about that building coming down. And I told them that, you know, that wasn't in your plans to keep the building. But looking at the building where it is now, and then looking again at your design here, the sidewalk, not the sidewalk, the entranceway follows exactly the same entranceway that's there now, right?
It's actually quite a bit narrower. Like the entranceway there now is like 80 feet wide or something like that.
Okay, well, okay, so it's not as wide. I'm just, you know, we've talked about this in the last meeting I was here. We talked about the Barton's Motel sign there. That sign, to a lot of people, including myself, is one of historical importance. Not so much because it says Barton's Motel, but because the whole design of it, the neon, the look. That sign was put up in the late 50s, I believe. It's been well maintained.
The one on top
It's
of the
only
building,
sign like that, not only in Belknap County, but I don't know how far north we'd have to go from here to the Canadian border to find one like that. I know they have them down in Manchester like that. I'm not even sure if we have one left in Concord like that. And again, I don't know if, well, we talked about, I don't know if Kalina's got this where she can show it. Is it on there now?
I can stop my sharing.
What they did in Portsmouth where Yelkins was, and I guess it's not really showing very well on my screen there, but okay. Oh, they're going to show it there now. So they tore down the whole Yelkins restaurant. There it is right there. And the restaurant's long gone. They've got a big plaza there now. And they yet saw the importance, listened to people in the area there about how important that sign was, and they kept it. Now, I realize to keep the Barton's Motel sign, chances are you'd have to keep the building. However, the people that put the sign in and maintained it, I think it's called Nebco Signs in Concord, there's the sign right there. They have indicated that that sign could be taken off the roof and put on a separate mounting and still remain there. I know it's not, again, it's not in your plans, but I really, really think you guys should look at that. Frankly, I don't know why you guys are getting rid of the building. Maybe that would tone down some of that look that you have there with the modern buildings and gables over the parking garage and all that stuff. And when I'm looking at your design here on Union Avenue, when I'm going north, and that building is what we see right there, it's not an offensive building. It gives the cemetery more privacy on the backside of it. Both of those buildings do, instead of just having trees there. And on another note, I'll get all this in at once. You and I talked briefly about those trees, the big tall trees that are in the front. Those, again, those aren't on your renderings, but you've indicated to me that those trees are going to be left there. That's correct.
We're trying to preserve those trees. Yes. Because
Okay, well,
the tall trees along the front.
Because the sidewalk's not going to go near those.
The sidewalk doesn't go near them. The only thing that goes near them would be our drainage line that the drainage line doesn't run over the top of them either. It stays a little ways away from them. So we just have to make sure we're far enough away that we don't impact the roots. So.
Okay. So what about the sign?
The demo permit that we got is to take everything down. So if somebody wants the sign or wants to, take it somewhere, I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is.
Well, John, I'm just one vote.
We did discuss,
sorry.
like we did internally discuss, like if there was any spot for it on the site. And the developer wasn't comfortable committing to putting Barton's, leaving the Barton's Motel sign on the corner of the development. We would almost have to redo that area and make it so it's, really separate it from the development, like landscape, or do something to separate it completely from what we're doing. And it would be difficult.
Well, I'm sure it will be difficult, but I can tell you that, again, that's very important to me. And I'm speaking for other people. This is going to change the whole atmosphere up there, obviously. And nothing stays the same. I get that. I had a person from Paugus Bay call me on the other side of the bay complaining about what this is going to look like. And I was happy to point out to them that as we're driving up Weirs Boulevard or down it, and you look over to Paugus Bay, that whole area has changed tremendously too since when I grew up here. Instead of quaint little camp cabins there and stuff like that, we now have an area that in some ways represents Salisbury Beach or Hampton Beach, where you've got all these big buildings along the waterfront. I get that. That's the progress. But looking at this right here, this is going to be tough for people, for a lot of our local people. And unfortunately, we don't hear from everybody. And I try to represent everybody I hear from here on this board. So again, I know it's difficult, but you guys haven't started it yet. And this may be something that maybe they can do to help, just help make this more plausible or more accepting for a lot of the residents here in Laconia. That's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. David, did you have any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. So if it's okay with everybody, I'm going to move on to a public hearing. It is 7:07, and I'm going to open it up to public hearing. Anybody from the public, Rob?
I do not see anybody that has their hand raised.
Okay. How long should we give it?
So let's make it clear for people who are online that if you wish to speak during the public hearing, you need to raise your hand. There should be a mechanism at the bottom of your screen to hit that says raise your hand.
If they're just on the phone, isn't there like *9 or something like that? If they're just listening?
We have nobody on the phone just listening.
Nobody?
Okay.
Well, let's give them 30 seconds to maybe
All right.
figure out how to raise their hand. And
Are there any members who would like to watch?
Ed, am I allowed to speak for people who have spoken to me but didn't want to appear online?
I gotta believe if you were gonna speak, it'd be after public hearing. So she could go with that. Yeah.
Under discussion, that's
Yes.
board discussion.
So, all right, it's 7:09. I'm gonna go ahead and close public hearing and open it up to the board. Any members of the board have questions or comments they'd like to make?
Yes, I'll start out.
Mike Delvecchio?
We all know how I feel about the density of the project. Last October, John came before us and he wanted to get approval to go from 24 units to 32 units. And all of a sudden, he doesn't need that approval. And I don't understand how that could happen. Has there been a traffic study done to know that corner can handle 32 units? The density for the property is just too much. I believe in everybody's right to build what they want to build. But I would just be happier to see $16 million units than 32 $500,000 units there. It would make the corner more attractive. I'm concerned about the height of the project. I can't believe we can get away with building something 80 feet above the water line. It's going to look like a condo in Boca Raton.
I agree. I find it hard to imagine more than twice the number of cars in that spot. And today there's 2 access points. Cars can go 2 different directions. They don't have to go all on the same road. It's going to be one loop for what accommodates 96 vehicles. And it's, as I've mentioned to Dean, if I'm trying to park near my unit, I'm going to come in that one loop. And if I don't find an empty parking spot, because I passed the one back a ways, I'm going to have to go back out to Union Avenue, circle around and come back in. And it seems like that's an awful lot of cars to have in that tiny area.
Can I respond to that? It's two-way traffic on the whole loop. It's not a one-way loop.
So how would that work?
It's wide enough to have, it's 24 feet wide all the way through.
So
It's full two-way width all the way through.
So if cars are going both directions in it and you're
It's
driving,
just like on a regular road. It's actually wider than a lot of the town roads. It's full 12-foot width lanes going both ways.
so how could you, but you wouldn't do a U-turn in the middle of a 2-lane road. How would that work?
Good.
What you would, I'm sorry, here. Like you're saying, if you come in and you're looking for a parking space,
Mhm.
and you get like all these parking spaces along here are designated
Yeah.
spaces for the residents. So if you're coming to your unit, your parking space, there shouldn't be anybody in it. Otherwise they should be towed.
Okay, so it's not visitor parking.
The visitor parking is right here.
That's it for visitors.
Yep. So each unit has a space outside, an outdoor space, and a 2-car garage per unit. So they can either come in and park 2 cars inside their garage or park in their outdoor space, or let a visitor park in their outdoor space if both their cars are in the garage.
Right. Well, it just seems like the potential on a nice day, or when people are bringing their groceries in, they don't want to walk all the way from the garage. They use those spots.
Then
Somebody comes in.
they can go and park in their garage and walk up to the unit.
Okay.
Yeah, but the residents should all be able to drive in and go right to their spot. There should not be, and they should never have to loop and look for anything. They all have designated spaces.
Okay, and then I understand the only entrance will be on the eastern side, the northeastern side, not, you won't be driving in on the southern side, is that correct?
It's wide enough to do both.
Okay, so this was another little thing I noticed, that there is no drive approaching the garages, so there's no place to really maneuver there. You have to stop and kind of
You
work
turn-
your way into your garage in a pretty tight area. And if there's cars in both directions, a little bit, it's traffic mess.
Like if you're going to go to your garage, you come in the driveway, you go down and turn into your garage. There's no outdoor parking next to your garage. No, that's correct.
Okay,
Like somebody can't park outside of their garage and take up the whole aisle and prevent anyone else from using the aisle. That's
right.
correct.
It seems tight.
Okay. Anybody else?
It's actually almost, I think it's almost 30 feet like 30 feet of pavement in between the garage doors. So it's a lot wider than like a regular parking lot. Trying to back your car out of a regular parking space, it's like 6 or 7 feet wider than that.
Right. Well, except for the garages on the loop road, that will be a little bit different.
This one, yes. Yep. They cannot, when they come in, they'll have to hit the garage door opener and pull in off of it. But there's room to back out of their garage too. Yes.
John, I only see 10 guest parking spots. Am I correct?
Yes, these 10 right here, yes. But each unit has 3 designated spaces per unit. So you ought to, yeah, like if somebody's gonna have guests, they know they're gonna have like 2 guests or something like that. They have 3 spaces that they can use that are designated, and then the extra 10 are for guest parking for the rest of it.
So 1 parking spot and the 2-car garage.
Yes, that's correct. And I think there's actually one extra, I think there's one extra one over here. So I think there's 11 extra spaces for just completely guest and 3 spaces per unit available. In terms of parking, we have a lot more parking than almost any other condo community that exists right now.
I live in Breakwater, and that's not true. We
Okay,
have a
good.
huge overflow lot, and we have 2 overflow lots, and they fill up when it's busy in the summer.
John, what's the plan for snow removal? Where are they gonna stockpile snow?
There's snow storage areas over here. There's snow storage areas off of the front of all of these spots. And over in this, a couple, like a little bit right here in some of there. And if it gets to a point where all of our snow storage is taken up, then it has to be trucked out.
Okay.
They'll have to, bring a load, have somebody come in with a loader and a dump truck and, clear a little space.
John, I guess when I first heard you talk about this, I was under the impression that the existing dock would actually be removed because there weren't enough spots for everybody. So now that dock is staying, even
No,
though.
that's the location of the dock. That all I did is I showed a potential different dock in the same location. That's it.
Oh, well, I guess I'm just really concerned about that many units and only, was it 8 would be the maximum of?
I don't know if 8's the number. It's something like that. I don't want to say that it's 8 exactly, but it's something low. It's not 32.
Okay. That's just a really lot of units right on the shore. I'm just really concerned about the traffic there. It would just almost be nicer to have no dock.
Well, it's going to be it'll be day docking. Like if somebody's gets their boat from the marina or has it comes down and picks people up, there's only going to be like 6 spaces or something like that for day docking. So.
Okay.
Dean, Ed Bonas, I've got a quick question. How many units are in Southdown?
I think it's around 600 total units of housing between Southdown and Long Bay.
Do they have 600 docks?
No.
No. So I understand what people are saying, but I gotta tell you, to some degree, you got 32 units. It doesn't matter if they got 8, 10, 12, 15 docks. Part of my confusion is, I believe if the applicant meets the criteria to have docks, have a beach, playground if they want, they meet the parking. Our job is not to pick apart that some of the residents will not have access to a dock. That's just my personal opinion. It's not our position to determine whether or not the purchasers of these condos, their children have a playground. It's their choice to purchase here. And I think a lot of the questions I'm hearing are revolving around a lot of personal choice. You don't want to live here, don't buy here. But if you meet the criteria to build it, I think they're entitled to build it, I would think. That's what we're really here to discuss, not everybody's personal choice of whether or not they like the color of the asphalt. That's just me, but please, more input would be great.
I just want to add that while I understand the concern about docks, we do not permit or control the docks. It's 100% in the purview of the state.
Yeah.
The state will have to decide whether 8 is appropriate there or whether a different number is appropriate.
Have they made that decision yet?
I don't believe there's been an application made for the docks, so no.
When do we, John, when do we anticipate that you're gonna make that application with the state?
We have somebody working on it. Cynthia Folsom is working on the project with us right now. And she actually did some work on the lake houses at Christmas Island site too. So I don't know when she is.
The answer is you don't know.
I don't know the answer of when she's going to actually make the application. I know when we did lake houses at Christmas Island, there was no dock application until construction was underway. So.
Okay. Well,
In theory, we could build the condos with the existing dock, but we anticipate making an edit to it, but there's an existing dock there right now that could be utilized without doing anything.
but your depictions do not show the existing dock, right?
I was just showing it. I was showing an example of what we might do with the dock. That was it. Just that we anticipate making some change to it, so that it isn't out of the blue when we make a change to it.
Okay.
Yes, Charlie, go ahead.
Oops. There we go. Hi, John. I remember the first time you guys came in and I spoke to the one of the developers about, again, I'm going back to the Barton's Motel sign. I'm just disappointed that nothing was even done about that, keeping that maybe as a I hate to call it a monument, but something that could keep that sign there. I'd like to see those buildings stay. I mean, they could make income out of that one to the left of the bookstore, actually both of them. But that being said, I really wish they would put some effort into that sign. I'm probably going to vote no on this just for that alone. Because I think that should have been an important plan with this whole development here. I just think it would add a lot to what really looks like. I don't know what it looks like. It would just spice it up a little bit, I think. But I just wanted to go on record as saying that I really would hope that no matter how the vote goes on this, whether it's tonight or at the next meeting, that the developers would rethink that and try to work something out on that. I know it's going to cost money, but this whole project's going to cost money. And it's just something that I think down the road they can say, you know what, we're glad we did that. Looks cool and everybody else kind of likes it too. Thank you.
John, can I ask, what is the existing percentage of green space after the sidewalk was added?
We had done a sidewalk originally, like we had done an attached sidewalk before is what we were kind of showing originally. Hold on here, let me see if I can pull up my green space.
Just to add in, while he's part of that.
We were actually, like, the existing site makes the green space and our proposed site is even like quite a bit better. Green space calculation, we have 58.7% green space. And I think we only need like 25% or something like that. So we're like 20 or 30% over. Like it isn't even close. We have plenty of green space.
Okay, I see the only walkways are the paths to the units. So anybody wanting to go to, from their unit to the little beach area, it's all green space. There's no walkways around the buildings or anything. I guess that's what's.
That's correct. Yep.
Space up. I also see there's really absolutely no ability for anybody to tow anything. So anybody bringing, anything that they're towing, that's not going to be an option.
Nope. No, I think there's actually a restriction in the condo docks that no boats are stored on site. If they do anything, if any storage has to be within a garage too. And we have something in the docks that they can't use, but like they can't use both parking spaces in the garage for storage either.
So anybody with a snowmobile in the winter or anything like that, they're just out. That's not.
They could if they could use one space inside the garage, then they could, but almost no boats would fit inside the garage though, no matter what.
Right.
They would have to just there's boat storage everywhere. So they'd have to put it in a regular place.
Right.
Anybody else? Yeah, I got one more question. Who's got it first? David?
Yeah. Go back to the view from Union Avenue, looking past the garages and the 4 units on the lake. Can you do that, John?
Hold on here. You want me to bring up the architectural renderings, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want you to bring up Lakeside at Poggers Bay, view from Union Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah, that one.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. I realize that this is contrary to the current chair's position in terms of personal views. But this is your view from Union Avenue. And it's ugly. I can't put it any other way. And people are free to disagree with me. And I'm not going to vote against it based upon these renderings. But you got to be able to do better than that. Putting a little cap roof and a window and says, now it doesn't look like a storage area anymore. Is not acceptable to me. So, and again, it's not going to be a basis for me to reject this. Like you got to come up with a prettier garage. But I just want you to keep that in mind as we go through this, that you can do better.
Yeah. We can continue to work on the garages. We were trying to put some stuff together to improve upon things. Is what we came up with, but there are definitely options that we can do to make it match the existing buildings even closer. So we'll do that.
Well,
I would ask that you explore those options. Okay.
on the subject of, sorry,
Go ahead, Joel.
on the subject of views, I think, when we think about making the area attractive for tourists, the view from everybody boating, instead of looking out toward the Belknaps, they're going to see 4 5-story buildings right at the water's edge, obscuring the view of the mountains in the distance. You won't see the mountains at all behind them anymore. So everybody who's coming out from Lakeport in their boat, which is a lot of people who come up here as tourists, are not going to be seeing, the beautiful vistas of our area. They're going to be looking at 4 5-story buildings.
All right, Charlie?
Thank you. John, if you left those buildings I was talking about up there, that would obscure that view from Union Avenue when you come around the corner. I'm just pointing it out. But I did
There's
have a
gonna be lot
question
more
about the,
landscaping out there too. Once we get everything put up, they're talking about putting, filling in the landscaping with the landscape architect even more to strategically place stuff and make it look even better. And one of the items you're talking about is saving the bookstore. We did talk about that a little bit after some of the meetings. The only way that makes any sense is if you could guarantee that there was going to be, that it was the bookstore. If anything would happen to the bookstore ever, then the condominium association would have to take over the maintenance of the building. There'd be nothing to, there'd be no money coming in to maintain it. So
I can't,
there's a lot.
John, I can't think of a more perfect retail spot on Union Avenue than where that bookstore is. It's quite frankly, it's why they've been there so long and survived so long. It's a great retail spot. I'm thrilled that you guys even talked about the possibility that gives me hope that maybe we should do that. And I was going to ask you about the docks. How long do you think that approval will come from the state as far as whatever it is you want to do there?
Well, I don't know. The issue is you can't hardly get a meeting with the state right now. You have to go in for basically a pre-application meeting for doing what we want to do at docks, and there aren't really a lot of meetings going on. So that we're having problems with that. I mean, they're trying to set up some Zoom meetings where you can do pre-application meetings by Zoom, but it hasn't been happening.
Okay, so how long? Let's just say this was voted on and approved tonight. How long before you think you would begin demolition? Yes.
We're asking for a 2-year approval. I don't know exactly what's going to happen in the immediate term.
So you think it could be out several months or a year even?
Everything opens up tomorrow, construction might start this summer. If it doesn't open up anytime soon, it might start next summer.
Okay. Because I would love to make a motion. I don't know if it would pass or not, but I would love to get a motion. And I can't see your face right now, so I don't have to see you look like you're probably going to look, but I would love to see this move to another month, if at all possible, so that you could maybe come back with some answers to some of these questions that we've had. And maybe for my sake and the people that I talked to, more thought about where that bookstore is and that building, which would then encompass the sign, because I know it sits on top of the building. So that being said, that's all something I'd like. I don't know if I can make a motion. I can't make a motion.
Wait till we're.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're still in public hearing.
Okay, so we'll wait on that. Okay, thank you, John.
So I have a question of the planning department. And you've got the miscellaneous requirements about language of the condominium documents. That's 3A. Are you satisfied that that's the only language that we're going to need in the condo documents? That's what my question is.
We have reviewed the proposed condo documents. It has the provisions in it for maintaining the jellyfish. It has the provisions in it about the garages and storage and those kinds of, and along with the usual condominium document requirements that almost all, everybody uses the same template that the Attorney General has approved. So all of that language is in there, and then people add in the special stuff that pertains just to them. All of those things are in there. There was some language concerning the cemetery, but it did not match the language that we have in 3AA. So we want to make sure that the condo docs are updated to have the exact language that the cemetery wanted to have.
So the planning department is reviewed the condo, at least the proposed condo documents, and you're satisfied that apart from the language in 3AAA, they're good.
Yes, they have covered all of the aspects that have been, all of the concerns that have been raised previously are covered,
Okay.
in
Thank you.
addition to the regular boilerplate
Because-
stuff.
We had a number of concerns that we addressed. And I don't want to bullet list them. I'm going to trust you that you've done it and we're good with it.
So while I have the opportunity, I would like to draw your attention to that same section, that's section 3D. We have an email from the developer. I believe some of you have copies of it. I would like to modify the language of that provision. We're still working with them concerning the property line between the proposed development and what is now John's Corvette.
Okay.
There's some concern expressed by the owner of John's Corvette, and he and the developer have talked on several occasions. They have a working agreement, but not a final agreement. And the email states that the developer is committing to installing a combination of landscape and fence buffer that will be in agreement with the Corvette shop, and we will be part of that discussion. I mean, part of staff's responsibility and the board's responsibility is, if this project is approved, is a protection of abutters, and this is the only thing. There's only two things that abutters have asked for. The cemetery has asked for some very specific language, and we have that. And then the other side, the other butter is asking for some type of very extensive landscaping and or fence or combination thereof
So, John,
to protect their
I'm gonna-
property.
John, I'm going to ask you, how far away are you from an agreement with John's Corvette?
Ralph has met with him on site a couple times, and I mean, we basically have the agreement. It's going to be a combination of fencing and landscaping. Once things are starting to go up and we can see exactly what needs to be put in, there might be a berm, there might be like a combination of fence and landscaping is what it's going to be.
Well, I don't want to speculate. So maybe Charlie's idea to table this until we have an actual agreement in place in terms of the buffer that's suitable to everybody is appropriate. I mean, you have done the buffer with the cemetery, with Bay Street, and that's agreeable to them and agreeable to you and agreeable to the city. Now, shouldn't we have all those agreements in place so we know what we're getting? I'm asking a general question to the world and to the planning department.
In terms of John's Corvette, I mean, we are definitely working with him. We actually put a note on the plan to that effect that we're of exactly what we've been talking about. Like I said, Ralph has met with him out on site a couple times, trying to make sure we have everything locked down. Ralph committed to everything in the email that Dean has, and apparently you guys have seen as well. I think at some point we're making a good faith effort to work with them and put something in place. There's definitely going to be something in place. I just don't want to be in a position where the abutter defines what it's going to be rather than us have the final say.
Well, then, why don't we have that agreement in place before we
At some
consider
point,
approval?
there's a lot of situations where you have issues with abutters they never agree to anything, and that doesn't stop a project from being approved.
Well,
We're making a huge effort on our part to work with them, and we're putting everything in writing that we're working with them. It's not that we're not.
Well, what you lose is 30 days. if what you come up with in 30 days is a statement that the abutter is just being unreasonable, here's our proposal for the buffer between the two properties. Can you live with that?
So on the screen is the email that I received yesterday. It is short and brief, but to me, it does what needs to be done from the standpoint of he's using the word commitment.
But there's no design.
There's no design. Correct.
All I got is, please accept this email. And that's it?
That's it.
So this is communicating from John, right?
No, it's from Ralph. This is the developer.
Okay. That's not good enough for me.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you.
Any others?
I didn't hear what he just said, his final commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dave, your last comment was, it's not good enough for you?
That's not good enough for me.
Okay, thank you.
An email from the developer that he's got some kind of an agreement is not good enough for me. I want to see the agreement. Thank you.
Dean, I have a quick question for you. In regards to this agreement between the developer and Corvette gentleman. Is developer required to provide you with an agreement? Or just say he's gonna put some stuff out? Does he need a design? Does he need to provide a design?
Not required, no, but I have had discussions with the owner of John's Corvette.
Yeah.
The developer has as well. There is a concern there, and we want to make his concern, the Corvette shop's concern, is twofold, and one of the issues cannot be solved by the developer.
Okay.
So the concern that can be solved or partially resolved by the developer is the future residents of the condo development and or their guests are going to cross the lawn and go look at the Corvettes.
Yeah.
And that's a security problem for the Corvette shop. Now, the second concern is that this is happening now from people coming off the street because he's wide open.
Yeah.
So he recognizes that as part of a plan to do something along the property line to reduce or eliminate the looky-loos from the condo development, that he needs to do something along the street level to solve the same problem. But that would be up to the owner of the Corvette shop. He has a partial problem now that's not going to be solved by the developer in any way, shape, or form. However, obviously, with 32 residences next door, that there is a new problem that arises. Currently, with the family dynamics that are there, Barton's Motel and John's Corvette are all Bartons, so it's kind of within the family.
Yeah.
If there's a problem with a guest at the motel, there's someone to go talk to immediately at the motel and say, hey, can you make these people get off my property? But that's not how condo associations work. So it's a little bit different dynamic. So I think whatever the board wishes on this, I think we've made good progress on the issue over the past week or so. I think that this email gives me what I need to make sure that it happens, but I'm more than willing to accept a higher level of assurances or commitments or whatever the board desires.
If nobody else has anything else, I guess I'd ask for the staff's input on what they see as we're up against, issues, concerns, or.
All right, let me before I get into the actual recommendations here, there's a few things that I want to talk about that have come up this evening. One is traffic. We have not asked for a traffic report or a traffic study for this project. I don't believe that this generates enough traffic to warrant that personally. I think we need to recognize two things when it comes to traffic. That if the motel was very busy, there would probably be just as much traffic or more than there would be on a normal day from this development. In the bygone era when things were busy, that certainly would have been the case for 10 weeks out of the year. So I recognize that traffic is steady on Union Avenue, particularly in the summer. I would not classify that section of Union Avenue as being a traffic problem. And they're making improvements to the driveways that I think enhances the situation. And we're moving the crosswalk, which I think is very, very important. I do want to correct the statement about the height of the buildings. They are not 80 feet. They are average 60 feet, which is approximately the same height as a few of the pine trees that are already on the property. I have no idea whether those pine trees are going to survive or not, but from a frame of reference standpoint, a 50, 60-year-old mature pine tree can easily reach 55 to 60 feet height. So that's the kind of the visual, if you will. I agree that if you're in a boat and you're relatively close to the shoreline, that your view of the scenery in the background, the Belknap Mountains or whatever, are going to be partially obscured. But I think once you're out in the normal boating lanes, that would not be the case at all. Your line of sight would not be impaired at all. But if you're up real close, I agree. And my understanding is there's some sandbars there, so I don't know how close you really want to get unless you are visiting the sandbars. The comment about the density, when this was originally proposed last fall, they came to the board under performance zoning for density issues, and they thought they might need some relief from setbacks. While the project was developing, the underlying zoning for this area was changed from commercial to the UC zone. The UC zone allows the density that is being proposed. So they do not need any relief from density from the underlying zoning, and they meet all of the setback requirements. So they really are not asking for anything under the performance zoning aspect. They thought they were going to need to originally, but as things turns out, they do not. So with that in mind, we have talked about the major provisions under miscellaneous. The language for the condo documents for the cemetery. We have talked about D at length here. And then the Laconia Waterworks is pretty standard stuff. Nothing unusual there. The sidewalk, as you know, they had requested a sidewalk waiver. You denied the request for the waiver. So there will be a sidewalk along the front of the property. We are moving the crosswalk at the recommendation of the Public Works Department. We did meet on site a couple of occasions with John Roque to talk about how the sidewalk would be constructed and where the crosswalk would go. We have an agreement with them that they're going to share in the cost of the relocation of the crosswalk. And then the rest of it is pretty much boilerplate from the standpoint of they need to get all their permits. If they don't get their permits, then obviously they don't have a project. So be happy to take any questions. And as John mentioned, this is for a 2-year approval, which is the maximum allowed by state law.
All right, folks, are there any other questions for Dean or the applicant or anything? Hearing none, I guess I'd ask if a member would like to make a motion on this.
Well, I'm going to move to table this for the next regular scheduled meeting. I'd like to see an agreement between the abutters, between John's Corvette and the developer, not just speculation that we're going to do one. I want an agreement or a statement that we can't reach an agreement right now. But there's got to be some consideration for that buffer zone. As I make this motion, I
Can I
want.
second it, David? Can I second the motion before you?
I don't think he's completed it. That's what.
Well, he wanted to make the motion, so I'm seconding it, just so you keep going.
Well, I don't want to get in a position where we've got a motion to table, which is not open to this discussion, before I have.
It is, it's
It's
not.
not.
Okay, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
withdraw my second.
So, but I'm of the view, despite everybody's legitimate concern, that this application really meets the criteria that we established for approvals. And that once we've got a buffer agreement in place, I'm going to be looking at approving this project as it is, despite Barton's Motel sign. Sorry, Charlie.
Wow, okay, David. May I speak?
Yes, please.
Since we're still, that being said, David, I will approve it too, in spite of your, the barrier there. However, I think this gives, and John, kind of let it out of onto the table there that, they talked about that building and they talked about the sign. So I'm hoping that if it is tabled, if we agree to do that tonight, that perhaps there's some more discussion that can be held about that. And maybe that building will stay up and maybe that building can remain a viable retail spot in the city, whether it's the bookstore or somebody else, which would provide the condo association with income and would also save what many people feel is a historical sign. That's all. Thank you.
I share that. So.
I add a few comments in there.
We're still looking for a motion from someone.
I've got a motion to table this.
Charlie seconded.
All right, so we got a motion to table from Dave Bounds, a second by Charlie St. Clair. I'd ask for a roll call vote. All in favor? Lena?
Mike Delavecchia,
Favor.
David Bounds,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair,
Yes.
Edwin Bonis,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
and Kirk Biotti.
No.
Anybody else here, Claire? All right, looks like the motion passed. John, we'll see you at the next meeting,
June 2nd.
Thank you.
June 2nd. So next, we're moving on to public hearing, possible consideration for a vote. 05015 SU AMD Pullard Road, Martha Ann Way. Pullard's Heights proposal to amend the subdivision to expand the existing 40-foot right-of-way to a 50-foot right-of-way. First of all, we need to have a motion to accept.
So move.
All right, applicant has been accepted. So first, we'd like to ask the applicant to make their presentation.
Don't we need a vote on the motion to accept the application?
Yes, okay, so we need a vote to accept the application. Kalina, all in favor?
We need a
What was
second.
that? Oh, we need a second on
I'll
that.
second.
Charlie just seconded. So Kalina, if you could do a roll call.
Mike Delvecchio.
Favor.
Dave Bounds.
Yes.
Edwin Bonis.
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair.
Yes.
Rich McNeil.
Yes.
Stacy Susie.
Yes.
And Kirk Piatti.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. So if we're looking for the applicant here, is that Chris Dupre?
I don't see a Chris Dupy listed. I have one person that's listed as a call-in. I can unmute them to see if that's.
Please.
If you're the user that has called in, if you can identify yourself. If you're a user that's here representing this application, if you can please raise your hand.
Nothing? I guess, can we consider a motion to table this? Or what's the procedure?
Dean.
I would,
Oh, June.
yeah, I would recommend that you, you voted to accept, which is fine. They are ready to go.
I don't see her. I don't see her either. Yep, she's completely logged out. Should even log back in.
We're talking about Marsha Ann
Yes, sir.
Way.
So I guess I'd entertain a motion to table this until next month from somebody.
So move.
Second.
All right, well, Kalina? Hang on one second.
So Mike Delvecchio.
Favor.
Dave Bounds.
Yes.
Edwin Bonis.
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair.
Yes.
Rich McNeil.
Yes.
Stacy Susie.
Yeah.
And Kirk Piatti.
Yes.
Motion passes. We're gonna move on to PL 2020-0040 SU 11 and 17 Kingsley Avenue, a proposal for a boundary line adjustment between the two lots. Again, first of all, we need acceptance, a motion to accept this.
I'll do that again.
All right, we have a motion. Can we get a second?
Second.
Charlie seconds it. Kalina, please conduct a roll call vote.
Mike Delvecchio.
Favor.
Dave Bounds.
Yes.
Edwin Bonis.
Yeah.
Charlie St. Clair.
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
and Kirk Biotti.
Yes. All right, looks like the motion passes. At this point, we need to hear from the applicant. I believe that is Nancy Rowley. Are you available?
Yes,
All right.
I am.
We are here and ready to hear your proposal.
Uh, Are you waiting for something from me?
We are waiting for you to tell us what you're proposing. Hang on one second. What's that?
I got the plan up for you.
There,
All right.
Oh. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, my house is 17 Kingsley Avenue, and my best friend Susan Huey, who I think is also on here, her house is next door at 11 Kingsley Avenue. And for years, my driveway, she has been gracious enough, as was her mother before her, to allow our family to park our car partially on her property. And we thought, while it's still just the two of us owning the two properties, before our 5 children, between the two of us, get involved, we would like to make this boundary line so that I could purchase this additional space from what right now is her lot.
All right. So we're going to open it up to public hearing. It is 8:02, and this has been open to public hearing. Anybody from the public like to comment?
There's a Susan that would like to speak.
Yes, please, Susan.
Susan, if you just unmute yourself.
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to let you know that I was here in case there were any other questions.
You're the butter, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm 11 Kingsley.
You're the friend next door.
I'm the best friend.
Okay.
Hearing none now, so we're going to close the public hearing at 8:03 and open it up to the board with any questions you may have. Members of the planning board, any questions for the applicant? Seeing none and hearing none, go for staff review.
So this is a very straightforward boundary line adjustment. The two applicants did go to the zoning board of adjustment last year to get the approval from them, as these lots are non-conforming. So we're adjusting the lot lines, just extends that non-conformity even so. So that's been done. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You have our recommendations, a couple of minor edits on the plan. This should go through very quickly.
All right. Would anybody from the board like to make a motion? Anybody? Go ahead, Dave.
I'll make the motion. With respect to application PL 2020-004 OSU. I'm getting the reverberations. I move to grant conditional approval with the following criteria per the staff recommendations, Roman numeral 1 and Roman numeral 2, inclusive of all the conditions contained therein.
Second.
All right, Kalina, if you could conduct a roll call vote, please?
Mike Delvecchio,
Yes.
David Bounds,
Yes.
Edwin Bonas,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair,
Yes,
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
and Kirk Biatti.
Yes.
The motion is passed, and thank you, Nancy.
Thank you very much. And
No
thank you,
problem
Rob,
at
for
all.
all your help.
Welcome. Rob's good.
It was excellent.
All right, we're gonna move on to PL 2019-0069 SP AMD, Endicott North Pine Hollow Campground, a proposal to add 36 more lots. We are here for an acceptance. Need a motion to accept this application? Charlie?
all right, I move that we accept the application of PL 2019-0069 SP, amended, I guess, Endicott North Pine Hollow Campground to add 36 more lots.
Got a second on this?
Second.
All right, Kalina, please, if you don't mind.
Mike Delvecchio,
Favor.
David Bounds,
Yes.
Edwin Bonas,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair,
Yes,
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Stacy Susie,
Yes.
and Kirk Biatti.
Yes.
All right, looks like the motion passes, and I believe we're gonna get a staff report.
You will
After,
at the next meeting.
all righty. So at this point, we're moving on. Is there any other new business, Steve?
There is. Sure, I'm on mute here. There's something I want to bring up to the board. This has kind of been percolating in the background for a couple of years. So I'm referring to Weirs Beach Village, which is a cluster development off of Endicott Street, which was approved by the planning board. I don't remember the exact date, but in the 2007, 2008 timeframe, and has been under development since, and they are close to being built out. There's still a few lots left, but for the most part, they are built out. When this project was proposed and then subsequently approved by the planning board, the idea behind this development was that it would be an affordable housing project. Now, when you use the term affordable housing project, that means different things to different people. So I would just want to take a moment to explain that. We are not talking about subsidized housing or anything like that. What we're talking about is houses that are in a medium price range that would be affordable for people who are in the middle income type situation. We are talking about firefighters, policemen, teachers, professionals, those kinds of folks. And I don't want to limit it to just that, but just to get you an idea of the income range that we are talking about. So it was proposed as an affordable housing project. And one of the ways at the time that the planning board conditioned the approval to make sure that it would continue to be an affordable housing development was to limit the size of the houses. And the limit was a total of 1,200 square feet footprint. Not total living space, but footprint.
Yeah.
Footprint did not include garage, but it did include porches and or decks. So it was 1,200 square feet. The idea was approximately a 1,000 square foot house with probably a reasonable but not overly ostentatious deck, and probably some form of a small front porch type situation. And if you drive through the neighborhood, that's exactly what you see. The earliest houses were built right after the recession, and they are even smaller than the 1,000. The livable footprint is probably closer to 850 to 900. The ones that have been built more recently are pretty much right up to the max, and there are some 2 stories mixed in, but they all meet that requirement. So that's the background. The issue that has developed is the people who have owned their homes now for several years, or even some of the people that are relatively new owners, would like to have bigger decks. And they're running up against this square footage requirement. At this point in time, I think that the objectives of the development have been met. The houses that have been built there are definitely within the category of being affordable. And in this day and age, and never mind what it was in, say, 2009 or 2010, but in this day and age, affordable housing in this area would be something in the $250,000 to $300,000 range, which is what new houses that are being built right now are selling for. The original houses certainly sold for less than that, but on a resale value right now, probably many of them would certainly be in the 250 range. Some would be a little bit less, some would be a little bit more. So the objective has been met. We would continue to require to meet those objectives for the 4 or 5 lots that are left to be built on. But I think what the board needs to consider is relieving somehow the requirement on the accessory structures that might be built, such as 3-season porches or larger decks or those kinds of things that would not materially affect the value of the property. And i.e., if someone were to build something like that, it would still be an affordable project, affordable housing project. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. And what I would like to do is work with the homeowners association and come forward to the board with a proposed wording change that would change the condition of approval, that would give them some relief to allow the construction of either larger decks or 3-season porches. We're not looking for additions to houses or anything like that. That's not the kind of thing we're talking about, but rather accessory amenity type things that most people like to have at their property in this day and age.
So basically, you want to keep the 1,200 square foot footprint, but you want to find a way to exclude deck.
Decks and or 3-season rooms or porches or that. What, you know, I mean, not everybody's going to want the exact same thing, but yeah, essentially removing the decks as part of that square footage calculation.
So the footprint cannot be any bigger than 1,200 square foot.
Right now, the way the condition of approval is worded, it's 1,200 square feet of livable space, foundation, okay?
Yeah. 30 by 40 foundation.
And porches and decks.
Okay, so you can build a 30 by 40 foundation, 2-story colonial,
Could
2,400 square foot with a 2-car garage attached to it, add a 18 by 20 deck on the back, and put a 3-season porch to the other room. These aren't affordable housing anymore at that point. Now you're pushing, you know, what you're describing is not affordable housing. I guess in my head, affordable housing was those 1,000 square foot, 1,200 square foot homes. You're getting into 2,400 plus, you know, 3,000 square foot homes there.
So some of the homes in the project now are probably 1,500 to 1,600 square foot, because they do have a some form of a second floor. It's not necessarily it could be a 3/4 story. It's not the full amount of it.
How
And
many
again, and
more
I believe there is also a limitation on the size of garages.
Yes, there's a limitation on garages, the roof type, and it has to maintain an actual architectural style to the rest of the village.
So we're not looking to change any of that requirement. And so the scenario that you stated, Mr. Chairman, yes, some of that could happen, but not to that extreme. It would still be a smaller home. You're also got to remember the lots up there. The building envelope is extremely small, so that limits what you can do.
How many more lots are there?
I don't know the exact number, 4 or 5 that are not built on.
They also had a limitation for number of bedrooms and bathroom.
Right. So we're not looking to change any of those items. All we're looking for is the outdoor space, if you will.
So you want, if I understand, so you're looking for the board to grant you permission to start negotiating with them or working with them.
And to come to the board with wording that would amend the condition of approval.
I guess my position was good. I have no problem with that. I think it's probably a smart idea. I think my only concern really is, 1,200 is 2,400 if you build it easily. And then you got a full foundation. And then you add in the 2-car garage. Then if we're going to allow somebody to do a 3-season room on the back of it, and then a new deck on the front, it starts becoming a large home. And that's my only concern. I have faith that you know how to control that more than I can.
So I think we would be looking for language that would, the homeowners would have to make a decision. I want to have a deck, or I want to have a 3-season porch, but probably not both. Or if you have both, they're both on the small side, not a huge of each. And we'd have to come up with the language to, I just think that the 1,200 square foot is probably needs to be, and I don't know the exact number, I'd have to go do some calculations and some examples, but something in the 1,300 square foot, but maybe it's 1,350 with a limitation on the livable footprint can't be more than 1,100 or something. I don't know. We'd have to do something, but something along that line.
Can I
So
make,
do we need to make a motion and just give you
I guess
advice on how to proceed?
consensus, I mean, unless anybody's objecting.
Yes, Brad.
all right, so what I was gonna say is, Dean, why don't you work with the homeowners, come up with something, but also to address Edwin's concerns about filling up the lot, porches and decks and stuff like that in the verbiage of it. Limit deck space to a certain percentage of the house footprint. And you also said that the lots up there are small, so they're still going to have to adhere to setbacks and things like that. So I think depending on the verbiage that you work out with the homeowners association, it should be easy to come up with something that the planning board can agree on, but maybe limiting the deck or porch space to a certain percentage of the house area.
Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Yes, sir, David.
I don't care how you do it, as long as you show us what the prior restrictions were and what your current proposal is. We'll figure out what to do.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm not aware of any other development that was approved under similar type situations. There may be that just for whatever reason, it's not on our radar, but I don't think any other developments have these kind of restrictions on them. And I kind of get it given the time frame of, 2008 and 9 and all that, but
I think
it's
this gives
unusual.
you an opportunity to be creative.
Right.
Rock and roll.
All right, sounds good. Any other members have any input for Dean? Hearing none. Any old business, Dean?
No.
None, planning board report? Oh, I'm sorry, we're gonna back up.
Do I go on old business or other business?
Yeah, old.
You can go old business, okay.
No comment, but yes, old
Yes,
business.
old business, okay, no comment. I have a couple of items I'd like to talk about. The first one, if everybody's been paying attention to city council meetings, and maybe you've gotten some comments from constituents, is Lakeport Landing. And this is with regards to the brick tower, I guess you call it, the hose tower. And I just want some clarification on this, and I've spoken to Dean about it. And I have the plan here that we approved as a planning board. And it's very, I don't know if everybody can see that. I don't know. But it's very prevalent that the hose tower was going to have, it says right here, simulated brick panels. So that to the common eye going by, it would look like a brick tower. That's what we passed here. And that's what went to the city council. And I don't know, from what I understand, reading, I've got some emails here back and forth between the director of the planning department, Dean, and the owner of the property there. And Dean constantly, in these emails, and I can't find my damn thing now. I believe it's dated in August of 2019. Dean constantly makes reference to the brick tower, saying that there's concern that, the brick facade is not up yet. When's it going to happen? And the last comment from the property owner totally ignores that and makes reference to this siding that was going to go up. Now, I'm not trying to, I know the owner, I don't know her personally, but I think she's a very nice person. And I don't know what the deal is here. But I do know that if the planning board is approving plans that go forward, and then the city council does something like this, we need to make sure, Mr. Director, that somehow this kind of stuff doesn't slip through the cracks. Now, I know that this was before my time, but I remember when a former planning board member made a real big deal about this, and this was Cumberland Farms up at the Weirs. And when they built, they put the gas pumps in, and they put the roof or whatever on top of that, they were in their plan, they were going to use a certain type of shingle. And they didn't. They installed everything, but it was not what the plans had been agreed to show. So I'm not advocating this. I think this would be up to the city council, quite frankly, but the planning board or somebody made Cumberland Farms remove everything they put up and redo it according to the plans that were approved by the planning board. So I'm just concerned, Mr. Chair, which you and I have spoken about, that we spend a lot of time here, and I don't want us to be saying, okay, this is what we approved, and then not have it done. And David, this goes to what you were talking about on the project up there in Union Avenue. You want to see what the agreed to stuff is with regards to that property line. We don't want to just go on the thing that everybody's going to be happy because there's nothing there to look at. But even if we look at it, we want to, what are you pointing at?
I want the plans that you referenced to be held up.
If we approve something, and that's what needs to be held to. If you open that up, David, you can see, yeah, right there.
The height of that building.
So that's my commentary on that, Mr. Chair.
This building.
I have one other
15
item.
feet
too I
higher
wanna
than
talk
talking
about.
Let's address that one real
The
quick.
building is bigger than this
Dean,
plan.
is there anything that can be done
They cheated
to
on the building.
get them to complete the
plan-
job as we had
I don't
approved?
think this was the one. I don't think this was the one, but I don't know.
That's what the director said, that is the one. Dean said that.
Isn't the building itself higher than what's on this plan?
That's not my point of contention. Mine is the brick. I think that was addressed another time, and I'll refer to, again, the director on that.
No, not that one. That's accurate. So the point is well taken, and as Charlie has this string of emails that have gone back and forth over the course of several weeks last year, and they have continued this year. The question has been asked by one or two city councilors as well. And we have reached out to our legal counsel to find out exactly where we can be more stringent, or what kind of requests we can make or enforce, or whatever terminology we use. As you know, we do not have strong architectural requirements for review in our planning process.
Yeah.
Whether we should or shouldn't is a discussion for another day. But the reality is that we do not at this time. The feeling of legal counsel is that this was a field change during construction, a decision made that we really have no enforcement action. Now, the discussion that I had with Charlie before the meeting was, and this gets very difficult because obviously when you're looking at this project, hindsight is 2020, and it's very easy to pull out one aspect of the plan and say they didn't do what they said they were going to do, and we, that was very important. But from an architectural standpoint, if there is some representation made to the planning board that you feel is very important, a requirement, a condition of approval, then you should specifically state that in your condition of approval. So in this case, if someone had said at the time, it says here it's going to be simulated brick, it's very important that that is the case. I'm not going to vote to approve this unless that is the case. Then that would be on the record, and then that would be a different situation. That didn't happen, and like I said, hindsight's 2020. It's very easy to point fingers, but as Charlie just said, and David talked about earlier, something like the Barton's Motel situation is with the property line and what exactly is going to go on there. If there's something in specific that you truly, really want there, when you get to the point of approving, you shouldn't specifically mention that as a condition. And that would be true of any application going forward, for any type of application.
So does that create a situation where we need, as a board, to be more in depth? I mean, saying, for instance, in the Barton situation, between Barton's and the Corvette shop, you're gonna put up a fence and some bushes, and then the applicant, once they get building, decide to have, what was it called, a
Chain link
spot
fence.
change, and then they put up a picket fence and say, good enough, we made an on-site change here, that's what you got. And we have, as a town, we have no way to enforce that they do or follow through with what we believe, even if it's not specific that you're putting up a particular type of fence. I guess I'm trying to figure out where the line is drawn as to what change can I make. can they make the building 10 foot taller? And then say, "Hey, it was a field change." And do we have no authority to enforce anything? That's where I'm going.
Right, the answer to that would be no, but, so from a technical standpoint of, drainage requirements, how much pavement you're going to have, height of buildings, the size of the buildings, those kinds of things, that's part of the plan. When you look at the plan, using Barton as an example right now, when you look at the plan right now, there is no plan for that property line. We have a commitment from the developer who says we're gonna make one. And we'll work with the abutter to make sure that it happens and everybody's in agreement. But you're right, you don't have one. So probably a good idea to table it and then and have them work on that and get more specific. And then if the specific's good enough for you next month, then you're good to go. If you don't think they're specific enough, then maybe you make them specific enough.
But see, then we go to this set of plans where the plans, if I understood it, said that this was gonna be a brick facade and a field change if we decided to go with some vinyl siding. I don't know, but yeah, I thought, if the plan specifically states this is what it's gonna be, how do you make a change on site without coming to us and notifying us?
It would be, in this case, for the former fire station, it's kind of in the same line as if you proposed a gray asphalt roof shingle on your structure, and then somewhere along the line you decide you're going to put a steel roof on. Obviously, it's a different look, might even be a different color. We really don't have any way of enforcing that. But as Charlie's example of and I'm not familiar with the Compton Farm situation. I've heard some little stories down there. I don't know exactly what the requirements or the representations during the meetings were made by the applicant that led to the point where you didn't do what you said you were going to do. I mean, I think it's fair to say in the case of the former fire station that there was a representation made that we would like to make it look like a hose tower and kind of honor that situation, that tradition. But I don't think the language of the purchase and sales agreement that got approved and signed by the city council and got everybody into the level of those details, so therefore it's not enforceable.
Charlie, go ahead.
Thank you. If you recall, or if I recall, Dean, correct me if I'm wrong, actually the intent was to keep the original hose tower there. And then apparently there was a structural problem or something, because I remember going by and all of a sudden this hose tower was disappearing, it was being torn down. So when we inquired on that, as a lot of people did, the response was there was a structural problem or something like that. Well, we're gonna put up a facsimile, it's gonna look just like that did, and that would mean that with the brick facade on. So I don't know where this ends up, maybe nowhere, but if nothing else, I mean, what would happen, David, what would happen if we, next month they approve these plans and then they come back and they start building it and all of a sudden the gable top on the garages is gone. It's back to what it was before. What do we say? Oh, well, they made a field change. So, and I'm not saying that's going to happen, Dean. I'm just saying that this is kind of what we're faced with now. And I don't think it's right. So that's all on that.
All right. What else do you have?
Leave it to the city council.
Yeah.
Well, my other, I got a call Sunday. Actually, I had an email from somebody earlier last week at one of our favorite stomping grounds. I'm sure some of the members will love to hear the term Langley Cove in Hargis Woods. Let's see, I see Brett shaking his head. So what it was if you recall, ladies and gentlemen of the board, when we passed that plan for Langley Cove, one of the stipulations was, come on, let's let's finish up the roads in Pogus Woods. Let's finish paving that road that was gonna be, I think, an access road, possibly into Langley Woods when that was built. And that was pretty much how we left it. So I had an email from a resident up there saying that they had the roads were falling apart there, and help me, Dean, with it. Primrose, I think it is, Lane. Anyway, when you turn in the development, after you go by a pretty good sized pothole right there, and you go in and straight up there, the road is falling apart. You can see where they made two patchwork. But the reality is, it's not, I don't think it was held up to what we asked them to do, to show good faith. And I spoke to John Wilkie today about this, actually, because he said he's still working with Brady Sullivan, the Brady Sullivan group. And I said to him, for heaven's sakes, you've got all these unhappy people up there. Why not at least keep the roads up to task to keep them happy on that? Because God knows they got other things they're unhappy about. But I'm just saying, that was something we had said to them when we passed that Langley Cove project. And if any of you want to drive up there and take a look at it, you can see what I'm talking about. And Dean, I don't know what the planning department can maybe push them along. You said you had been up there the other day, so you know what I'm talking about. We're not looking for concrete highways here, but we're at least looking for them to go along with the spirit of what we had decided last year when we passed the plans for Langley Cove.
So when the board approved the plans for Langley Cove, which also incorporated the second access into Pogus Woods, there was a requirement that, and I can't think of the name of the street either right off the top of my head, but anyway.
Sarasota maybe, or one of those up there.
Yeah, one of those, anyway. That the street that cut across the development from where the new access road was going to be to the main road had some broken up pavement and potholes, and they needed to be repaired, and they were, by the timeline that we gave them. We gave them like 2 months to do it, and that was done. The requirement that they completely repave that street only comes into play when and if they build the access road. And as you know, there has been absolutely no activity at all at the proposed Langley Cove. As a matter of fact, they're coming up on their 2-year renewal time here in a few months. So there's been no activity. So therefore, there is no requirement that they do anything else to that road until they build that access road, which there's a trigger point that they have to build that access road. They have to get to a maximum of 50 units, then they got to build the access road. In the meantime, to just throw a little, more complication onto the matter, the homeowners association has been completely turned over to the homeowners. Brady Sullivan is no longer an active part of the homeowners association.
You're talking about the woods?
Pogus Woods, yes.
Yeah.
I will not deny that there are issues up there. They have issues that have been ongoing for some time, and as you know, that there has been various attempts at litigation and everything else up there, and all of those things have run their course. And there comes a time in every association, whether it's a homeowners association or a condo association that owns private roads, and we've got a lot of them in the city, there comes a point in time where all of a sudden they're facing some very significant costs because their infrastructure is becoming it's aged, it's New England, roads don't last forever. A paved road in New England can expect to last from 10 to 20 years, depending upon amount of traffic and other factors, including the quality of its construction. You go to Florida and they build a road and they never repave that, probably in anybody's lifetime, because they don't have to, So we're in a very not unique situation, but we're in a situation in the area where roads don't last, period, no matter what. And associations that own their roads, which Paugus Woods does, at some point in time, they're going to have some hefty maintenance bills, and they're at that point. Now, I'm not downplaying what you're saying, Charlie, because there are some issues there, but in terms of the immediate thing that Brady Sullivan needed to do when we granted them approval, they did. And we checked it out and inspected it. It was done. The next thing that they need to do inside Paugus Woods, other than construct that access road when they get to that point, is they've got to repave that. I think it's Palmetto, but whatever anyway. They have to repave that road. If the last 21 months is any indication, that may never come to be. I don't know what to tell you.
When is that 2-year period that renewal?
I think it's July.
This July?
This July.
Oh,
So
boy.
expect to see them soon for extension.
Okay, well, we can continue this from there, I guess. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair,
No, you're welcome.
for indulging me.
So at this point, I guess, unless any members have anything else they'd like to discuss, we would plan to do an adjourn.
Any no liaison reports? I guess not.
No. All right, so without needing a motion, I believe we're going to go ahead and adjourn this, or do we need a motion?
Nope, you can declare it
All right,
adjourned.
Meeting's
Is there anybody
adjourned. Have a good day, everybody.
Waiting to be heard on the phone?
No, that was Jewel.
Okay. All right.
Thank you,
Bye, everybody.
So that's what I asked. 'Cause it kept saying it's not